you should say, we discussed this, we thought, I think you should do this, because.
And they can decide to do it or not. Yeah, but the process itself is exciting.
Yeah, you learn a lot.
Yeah.
When you actually have people who actually have ideas.
Yes.
It's kind of nice.
And are enthusiastic about participating.
Yeah, it was really exciting.
We never got to finish our conversation at Dean Golan's birthday, but I appreciated every minute of it. So, it's swimming around.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you know.
And you guys are okay?
And we spent our days.
You guys are okay?
Yeah, we're good. We just got back from vacationing in Vermont for a week. That was amazing. I didn't realize how burnt out I was until we got in the pine trees and the fresh air. He finds out if the judge follows the prescribed deadlines, he finds out by the end of next week if he gets admitted to practice law. And yeah.
Cool, and everything's going well with Julia?
Other than my personal experiences, challenges of working in the field, period. Everything's going great. We just
I love how they send that to us and we still put it out.
Other than that, you gotta kind of have a place with what you want to do.
Well, no, she sent this to me.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's a copy.
I didn't see an email. I just
It is a journey.
saw it.
Tomorrow's
I knew what it was.
That's right.
Wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like you said a minute ago.
What else is there?
Get up every day and do your best. How are you guys doing?
There you go.
You guys are so close to the party, man.
If you ever have any questions or anything, not for the questions, Larry.
I may follow by.
Yeah.
Are you teaching this class tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, it's running.
These guys are in the last class.
This is so
Can you believe
exciting. They're just finished. You guys just want to blow this place up right now.
Yup.
Pretty much.
Hardest week ever to study, right?
For sure. All right, guys, have a great class.
Bye.
Thanks, Team Director.
You want this other one? I have a long enough cord that I could travel it back.
I don't know what the battery is.
Okay. Then I'll save it just for you.
Let's just plug it into your laptop.
Give me a second here, let me discuss.
You want to take 10 minutes?
Well, at least 5. How's that? I gotta just get it right. Gotta reset my.
It's not very straight.
This is like 20 invites.
Huh?
This is like 20 invites.
There's 10. It's 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it's 20 instead of. You're going promise 10, that's 1. Isn't that fingerprints all over this?
Yeah. That's something like that. It's like you got grease on.
Right? And like, I gotta like work gloves my damn balls.
White satin gloves.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Too many chairs everywhere.
What the fuck is with all the chairs?
All these chairs, all these invites.
They're all like used.
But they're not new.
Well, you know what I mean? They're not like, they don't tuck under nicely.
I can't deal with this. They're used.
Used chairs.
I didn't
I think I heard new chairs.
You couldn't do it. Come on, guys. Come on, guys.
Unacceptable.
Come on, guys.
I brand new. I'm not sitting in that chair.
Come on, much when I find
If the pegs are glued and or missing, I will not consider it.
Oh.
Just like my book that is still new, I demand a chair that is new. My friend in Germany is watching Endgame right now.
Oh, no way.
And I'm like,
What?
how?
Yeah.
Is it for a bootleg?
No, they're showing it in the theater.
Are they really?
Isn't it
In
not out,
Germany.
like, on Sunday?
I'm like, it comes out on Friday or Thursday if you live on the West Coast. Because I'm going after class on Thursday.
Oh, I'm going on Sunday this weekend.
Yeah, I'm going Thursday for class.
It's a 3-hour movie, dude.
Yeah,
You're gonna be there
I'm
for a long
well
time.
aware. It starts at 10.
Are you really?
Yes.
Jeez, dedicated.
Yeah, that's where I'm going like in the morning, so I can have it over with by like midday. So the whole morning's gonna be shot.
I should plan Friday afternoon after I get off at noon.
No. I'm just gonna be dead fucking time. Just like I was on Monday. Being like perpetually tired all week long.
Yeah, we party though. We went to the Church of Ye.
I did go to the Church of Jesus.
Is it Ye or is like Ye like Kanye?
It's yay like Kanye.
But if it's Ye, then it's like Jesus, like Jesus.
Yeah, we had the accent over the E in yay.
It's Ye.
But there's no accent over the E in Jesus. Those sweatshirts that he was selling there, $200.
It's such a fucking scam.
Well, that's a Sally 10 probably.
The shirts were 100. The socks
They can't see if you're like.
were 50.
But they were special Church of Ye socks, I guess.
Yeah, it said.
You're supporting the Church of Ye.
It's an Easter Sunday service on the back in a circle, and then like.
And you gotta think about the big picture. This guy doesn't have to carry around thousands of shirts, he only has to carry like a fraction of that. 'Cause the price is so bad.
No. Like, okay, so to get them, they're at the back of the lot with a sign that said church close.
Did it really say
Yeah,
that?
it really did. I got pictures, but and then
Insane.
so they had the line set up to where it went back and forth like 8 times.
Now my question is he paying taxes on all that? Or is it church? Or is it a
Well,
church?
he has a 501c just for that event, right?
Yeah, mine.
And
So
a lot of-
Kanye sells shirts and sweatshirts as part of the Church of Ye, right? Does he have to pay tax? It says really it's $200 for a sweatshirt, $100 for a shirt, $50 for a pair of socks. Does he have to pay taxes on any of this? Because it's a church, sort of.
He has to be a registered church. He
Right.
has to make a lot of paperwork and stuff in order to qualify for that.
Okay.
Like how he said.
Yeah, no, I know. He probably just pays taxes on it. It was like,
I'm not even sure he pays taxes.
that's true.
I'm sure that's on top of his memory banks. No, but you have to be registered and you have to be approved. You can't just call yourself. But I'm a church. And you know, I have this philosophy: if we don't eat, we die. That would be suicide. It'd be a crime, so all my food is free, right?
Right?
Yeah, that's
Look at all my worshipers.
Hey, is Christian Cannabis the church you're talking about? The Church of Weed? Is it this guy wrote on Sky like ChristianCannabis.com? Is
that was
it
just a. There actually is a place called that.
No.
It's just a scam so they could get the building and get around.
Right, the one out here that we had, or no, that we were evicting, excuse me, we represented the property owner in this mess. So, our property was locked down, we weren't getting rent, we weren't, the city was letting us back in, it was just a mess for us. We didn't care if what they were doing, they were paying rent, and then,
That was in your place?
yeah, that was our property. In TC, it was called the Mind, IEM, or India, I'm sorry, Mind Tao Church of Mind and Body. Yeah. Well, yeah, we got them evicted and got the place you know.
Yeah, I just saw like Christian cannabis. And I was reading like Jesus through marijuana. And I was like reading it. I was like, there's no like gallery or info of where to do anything. It's just like here's some merchandise.
Right.
Was this in Coachella?
No, this was in India.
Oh, in India.
I think it was Coachella.
I thought it was Coachella. You might have said Coachella.
Yeah, I think it was Coachella. Yeah.
Articles
It was
about
right down the street over here.
Oh, there was these two huge articles about
Yeah.
there was two churches in Coachella, neither of which were
Yeah.
churches at all. It just sort of called themselves that because they figured out a loophole
Right.
how to get around certain regulations and set up their shop.
Because
Very clever.
yeah.
Very clever they were. I read it. I was like, that's actually very clever.
Right. Well, we represented the property owner.
Good. Very cool. No, I totally agree. They should go.
Yeah.
I mean, very clever, but it was just clever. It wasn't very useful. It certainly wasn't going to help anybody.
Right.
So,
I mean, after all the research that I did on it, we wrote a couple big CYA letters, right off the bat, telling them to evict, telling our client, evict now. And they chose not to. Client chose not to. So we were in the clear as their attorneys.
I thought you were just saying that you're trying to get them evicted.
No, this was a couple years ago, man.
I know.
It's over.
yeah, they're long gone.
Yeah.
And they kicked them out.
Yeah. We got them out. But client didn't want to get them out because they paid good rent. You know,
So that's what I mean. You got them out, but you just said you wrote cover your ass letters saying to evict them.
Right.
So did he change his mind like
so
halfway
the
through?
problem is, yes, client decided not to evict them. And then the cops moved in and evicted them.
Oh.
And then locked our building down.
Oh, so then you had to get the building
literally
back.
padlocked our building and wouldn't let anyone in. And then we had to fight to get it back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's basically the story. That's exactly my mentality of it. Just
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's, I do say this seriously with all, seriousness. I don't remember if you remember this or if I even said it to your class. I must say it to every real property class. But I actually once was involved in a, not personally, but as an attorney, in a legal dispute where one guy wanted these people out of his house, right? And they wanted to stay. The whole point, and we represented the landlord, and our whole point was, but you have a meth lab in the bathroom. He doesn't have to give you notice. This is illegal.
yeah, you just get in there and kick them out.
Just kick you out.
Yeah.
And they absolutely insisted that that was in, so we finally just kicked them out. And we found out, but I was sitting there going, so you don't find anything wrong with the fact that you have a meth lab in the bathtub that now he's going to have to, probably take out once you leave? And he's like, well, man, it's what everybody does. I mean, they thought they were perfectly entitled to have a meth lab. Yeah, it's like, well, we're paying you rent. Why do you care what we're doing? It's like, because you could blow up half a block, or because you've got all sorts of people coming and going all day and night. Most of them, I'm guessing, are meth addicts at this point. You're going to get raided by the cops, anything, and he's in liability. But they were just so blasé about it. Like everybody, well, doesn't everyone have a meth lab? No. No. Meth labs are bathrooms. Very surprised.
Yeah, if you would have a meth lab, you wouldn't need a meth lab because everyone makes their own bed.
Not really.
No,
I just told the owner, I just said, look, man, just call the cops and tip them all off and say there's a meth lab in there.
Yeah.
We'll take care of the damage later.
especially if you were on board with the cops from day one, they probably just wouldn't even padlock it for you. They just kick them out and
Oh, they did. They
And
just
say-
came over and pulled them out.
yeah,
Said, mm-mm,
yeah.
4 in the morning, bye-bye.
Ours was a bit of a fight because our client just wanted, it was a hole in the wall, shithole place. And she was getting like $4,000 a month of rent on. And it was like, she's like, no, I don't want to evict them, you know? So,
Well,
yeah.
they did pay. They did pay. every month.
They paid on time and they paid well.
Well, these guys paid in cash. So
What do you want?
that was a hint right away. They paid in cash every month. Yeah. Right. Mhm.
But if you theorize it, though, the problem is then you're a money launderer. If you theorize far enough out, they're laundering their money through you for rent.
No, but they're not going to get back. Once they pay me, it's not money. They're not going to get back.
True, but that's how they spend their spoils. Yeah. Oh well. I mean, the best way to I shouldn't say the best way to money. These things, should I? Anyway, there are some good ways to do it though. I've learned over the years. It's like that's actually kind of
I feel like you should tell us, that way we know what to look for if someone is doing it.
No, no. I don't want to tempt you into a life of vice and crime. Not that I think you would do it. But. Okay, so anyway, so yeah. So how many more weeks do we have? Just out of curiosity.
9.
One more.
It's every week.
Wow.
Yeah, or we have review week. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. See, what I do in this class, though, is I give you the last reading assignment. So read it. It's on the test. You reserve the right to test from it. But we'll just do the review in this class. So if you have any particular questions, you can ask me. But it's fairly short. It's not very hard. It wouldn't take very long if we did it. So it's not much of a big deal. So anyways, but yes, I might ask you a question on the exam. So you're responsible for the book, basically, is how that works. Well, that's very cool, huh? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I imagine we'll get through this. You could do 2 more weeks.
Good try.
I don't know. I'm at that point.
Come on.
I know.
Gotta keep just the right time.
Senioritis is fully spread.
Senioritis and summeritis too, both at the same time. Quite the combination. Okay, and here we are in April, so you're getting close, right? Now we're almost bar time. Again, now you should be starting to really, if you have not already, firming up your plans as to how you're going to do this. My advice, for whatever it's worth, is treat it all as one thing. I'm not saying don't take a couple days off or whatever have you, or celebrate for your graduation. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm just saying don't get out of the mindset. Sometimes students do that. They have trouble getting back in it. And you lose time. You lose a lot of time when you do that. First time, just do it. All 3 of you, if you just put your mind to it, you will pass the first time. Okay, that's all it takes, honestly. But, you have to put in the time. Later, if you don't pass, it'll be because you didn't. I'm telling you right now, you'll look back and you'll say, gee, maybe I shouldn't have. Okay, and there's your big blank, like whatever you did. Guess what? You're right. That's probably what it was. I've known so many students that are very, very, very bright, and they sort of check out, once they graduate and they go off and they do whatever they do. I don't blame them to a great degree. I mean, a lot of them go back to their families and stuff like that. And again, I don't know if you're going to have these particular pulls on you or anything like that, but you'll be very surprised because you might be very surprised by certain people who think now that you're out of law school, all of a sudden your life is just peachy keen and you've got all this time on your hands. You don't. Okay, you don't. You don't. And so you're going to have to talk them into, letting you be greedy for a couple of weeks, okay? Just calm them down and say, da-da-da-da-da. Yes, I actually have heard, this is true, I tell you truly, I have actually heard not 1, but 2 couples who got divorced because one or the other did not understand how important passing the bar was. And they, in fact, separated during the period in between graduation and the bar because for some reason the non-law spouse thought that the now out of law school spouse would just be getting a job or something. It's like, okay, that didn't work that way. Anyway, so
that's half the community property cases.
Yeah, really, exactly.
Hey, that's the best time right there. Get divorced right then.
Before you start making the money.
Before you start making the money.
And raise your standards.
Exactly.
Might take separation, Your Honor, right before I even took the bar. There's no way that any of this is hers.
just so we're clear, too, on the concept. Honestly, I'm not kidding you. I'm not letting you in this class. Don't give me room. But I know so many people too who once the law school graduate pass the bar, they divorce their spouse.
That's messed up.
Just like that. Even though they put them through school.
That's messed up.
Yeah. I have quite a few of those.
That's
More
like
than
in your parking class. Once you take that, you're like, I don't want her to get on my future.
it might be. Of course, you get stuck with it.
Well, yeah, you're gonna keep all the debt yourself.
Yeah.
So if you're not like you're making out, you know.
Not for your future earnings.
You're not. I mean, these are just.
But it's still all that like just community assets that got swallowed up are unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so. Yeah, I
Not gonna get my future earnings.
Yeah, that's not.
And my spousal support isn't going to be based on my future earnings.
Nope. No, they're gonna be based on. What was your goal in life when you was in law school? Oh, well, never mind. You don't get anything.
Again, I just one of those things. Yeah. I'm just amazed how many people I know that did that. It's just never occurred to me.
That's too underhanded.
I think so. I think that's really low. But, you know, people do what they do. But the moral of the story is try to think of it as one piece. You can avoid all these things as well, because you find them tempting or something like that. But that's what I think you should do. I think you should start thinking about, you know, being a lawyer. I think you should start thinking about where that's going to take you. I don't have any problems with that whatsoever. You know, how's it going to make your life better? How are you going to make your community better? These are all things you might want to think about. That may sound a little odd, but strangely enough, the number one, it's not exactly a question, and it's certainly nothing you have to worry about for the next 20 years or so. But once I retired, people just were asking me, well, what are you going to do? And it never really, I mean, I didn't know what I was going to do necessarily to fill in the time that I would not spend being a lawyer anymore. But I knew I was going to do something that was going to be community oriented. I knew I was going to not just forget everything that I knew, even though I can't walk into a, nor do I want to walk into a courtroom there again, right? And so, you know, basically that's what I've been doing, is for the most part, I mean, things that involve community. A lot of things that I wanted to do, but never had a chance, you know. And it does really set you up for that kind of work if you want it. You know, you'll see things very differently. You know, it's really funny. I mean, I'll go to a city council meeting, and I see them very differently, and you guys will too. Things like of that nature, you kind of understand how the law works, and you kind of understand things that most of the people who just want their potholes fixed, you know, it's kind of weird. And all of a sudden you realize it's like, well, I know that, you know, things of that nature, or at least I know, you know, what I'm trying to say is you'll be able to tug on the lion's tail a little bit better than other people will. You'll kind of get a lot of the things that are going on that, you know, those, you know, love them. Mere mortals do not quite understand what's really going on, why they can do things, why they can't do things. It's very basic. Now, of course, if you go into common law like me, then you even know more, right? Because that's, you walk in there, it's a little common law laboratory. Sad when they make about, you know, 17, 18, 19 constitutionally incorrect statements every time you go in. It's a little frustrating, but, you know, on the other hand, they're not going to get their way anyway. So it'll just be a lawsuit. But it's very interesting. You know, you're really setting yourself up to be in a position that you may not understand. I honestly did not really quite understand it myself. Strange but true. But it's something to think about. Because you can always help people. You know, I'm not trying to be particularly, you know, positive today, but you can always help people, whether you're a lawyer or you're not a lawyer, whether you're this or you're that, whatever else happens. So choose wisely. That's kind of my advice at this point. What you want to do. But remember, you're a horribly useful person once you graduate from law school. You know 99% more law than 99% of the population ever will. And that will make you a little different anyways, although you're probably starting to realize that by now. For better or for worse here.
And everybody goes up to me, can I do this? I don't know.
Sure.
Sure, do it.
I always tell them.
If the police show up, you couldn't do it.
Always follow up with that. Because
I always tell them the same thing. I say, can you make a left turn? Yeah, sure. You can make a left turn there.
Oh, I didn't say it was legal. I just said that you can
Yeah.
do it. You
And
can
I
do
said,
it.
did you get caught? Well, it was legal then, obviously. If you get caught, then it's not.
The best thing to do is be able to tell the cops to shove it after the fact.
Well, yeah, because
That's
then
where
it's
you.
legal.
That's the how good you want to be.
But that's what you get for asking me, can I do it? You didn't ask me if it was legal.
Very different question.
You can do anything your heart desires, just like your mother always told you. But
If you get caught.
some things are illegal.
Always hear some clients, right? Because when they're in trouble,
I like to tell people, I was just like, gee, I don't really know. Why don't you try and tell me how it works out? Then we'll know. They kind of look at me like,
No, that's a question of first impression for this office. Why don't you go do it? Let me know how it turns out. That way I get advice future clients.
exactly. That's the best. That's the best. So, yeah, something to think about though. You know, I mean, you're on the peripheral already anyways, to be honest with you, but you're just about to get into that club, you know? You're just about to get into that circle. All of a sudden, you know, you're gonna find people, not necessarily of like mind, but of like mind. And so you're gonna, you know, be very surprised what your world's going to be. I can tell you that I've been shocked since day one. It's never worn off on me anymore. Okay, so, and everyone's pretty much got their bar stuff, right? We're talking bar break, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Let's make sure that we do what we do.
We book the rooms and everything.
Excellent.
Got
I mean,
it.
just
And
really,
broke.
just,
Got it and am broke.
Yep.
yeah, just, you know, pull a Nike, just do it. You know what I'm saying? And just do it. Do it once, get it over with, never do it again. You do not want to get on that hamster wheel. You know, I cannot imagine that that's a good feeling. I just can't. You know, I mean, that alone made me sure I was going to pass the first time. You know, I just, look, I need to wait 6 months. I don't know where to be. Who knows? Might remember lesson. Okay, with that said, all right. Anything else I can help you with it this time? Okay, let's go ahead forward then. Start doing tonight's lessons. So, how many of you realize just how really, really important tonight's lesson was, if for no other reason?
Collecting on a judgment?
Correct.
So that's how we get paid.
So you get a judgment. You know, think about it. You know,
I got paid. I
yeah.
handed it to the client and say,
All
"Oh,
right,
I don't do
go
after."
collect.
I mean,
I did my job.
The number one client that you want to avoid. Okay, remember, you will make your practices not by the clients you take, but by the ones you don't take. Trust me, this is really, really super true. But the thing is just that, you know, I've had to tell so many clients over the years that, you know, we can do this, we can do that, but we're just gonna get the judgment and you're gonna hang it on the wall. There's just no way to collect this. It doesn't matter. And even if they say to you, oh, I don't care, I'll be happy, they won't. Okay, don't believe that for 2 seconds, right? Do not ever believe that and just say, well, okay, triple.
Yeah, 6 payment up front, right?
Yeah, pay me upfront triple. Think about it, but they won't. Okay, invariably what they always do is, well, I didn't really think you were serious. Yeah, I'm serious. And it's just a piece of paper. And without the ability to attach something or whatever else have you, any number of reasons. It's kind of funny because one of the very last cases I actually had, it's a long story, but one of the side pieces of this case was that there was an outstanding debt due to the guy was a musician, and he did okay, did all right, but he did have this one debt that for some he was owed money, royalties. And for some strange reason, it just, I kept telling him just let it go. It really wasn't that much money. On top of everything else, it really wasn't that much money. Not at all. Not. Okay. But for some reason, he just wanted to go after this guy. And so I went ahead and I did find him, which was a good trick, to be honest with you. Not bad at all. And do you know where we were, well, actually, I didn't live out here yet. But that's true, I didn't live out here yet. I was still in Los Angeles. Yeah, it's right before I moved. Wow, is that long ago now? Woo! Anyways, but guess where I found him? Anyone want to, it's to me to this day, it just makes me laugh.
Lakita?
On the Dillon Bridge.
You're closer than you. I'll put it to you this way. I found him in a trailer park in Florida, in Tallahassee. How much money did he have?
Nothing.
None, probably.
Do you want his trailer? No.
I would say yes.
I said, yeah. Just give him the trailer.
What do you mean?
Just a lien on the
Should've paid
trailer.
But from bankruptcy law, that you're not gonna be able to take their homestead. And I think that probably applies to the liens also. You're not gonna be able to take someone's homestead, are you?
You can lien. You can put a lien on it, but you have to wait till they.
Which is.
I would have done that.
But even.
Let me start with the first part of mine. Think about what you're going to do with your life.
But
Are you really going to chase after people in trailer parks?
I think what you just said though, that you have to wait till they sell it, applies to any property.
Okay.
It doesn't. I think that they can't get the homestead at all. But any property.
Well, the homestead, they can't force you to sell it. So
Right.
That's the whole thing.
Right.
They're not going to be able to.
Right.
Because again, your worst case scenario would be to declare bankruptcy and it goes away anyway. So you really would never get it. I mean, I kept telling him he was never going to get it. But he kept insisting, and I just finally just told him no. He was willing to pay me and everything, but I just was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to sue him in federal court. It's crazy. I could have, right? But because theoretically it's about copyright too, because it was based on ownership of songs. So I could have gotten into a federal court, or I could have got in for, but diversity would have been a problem though, because let me just tell you, they did not by any stretch of the imagination have $75,000 in controversy. This is nowhere near that. This isn't even 10. Just so you know, this was a total, spite bid right between the two ribs. You know what I'm saying? Which I'm sure for some people, is very attractive. But on the other hand, that's not the type of stuff that's going to make your practice. And also, let me warn you that if you do things like that, because you think you're gonna, get a reputation for being a tough guy or something like that, the problem is then you get tough clients. And again, it's not worth it. You're going to be dealing with a lot of things and have a miserable life, and
A bunch of spiteful clients that just want to pay to.
It's just crazy, and you don't want to. Not to use him as a bad example, but just try not to be a Michael Cohen in life. I mean, imagine if what you want to do with your life, seriously, just for 1 second on that point. But so you want to get up every morning of your life, yell, scream, and rant and rave, cheat people, go behind their backs, go get up in the morning and not even swim with sharks. You're not even on that level, quite frankly. Because if Michael Cohen runs into a shark, you see what happens.
It's true. I'll never understand why he didn't he might still be a lawyer right now.
No, he's been disbarred.
I know. He still might be a lawyer right now if he sat down and said attorney-client privilege. If he just sat down and said, I can't say anything.
Well, I can tell you one thing. I can tell you one thing, that if I were Michael Cohen, why I wouldn't do that?
Why?
Because there's people on this planet that are a hell of a lot scarier than Trump. That's why.
Like cops?
No.
So it's scarier than President of the United States.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not talking about law. We're not going to law enforcement at all. So you're talking about like the mob?
Which mob? That's a rhetoric question. There's probably several. But
Well, no, I think you're talking about the Russian mob, but
Probably a Russian, but then again, he was in, that whole taxi thing was a money laundering scheme, now.
Yeah, that kind of brought him down more than anything.
for what?
The whole medallion issue, and
I don't think I heard of this.
that's what he got arrested for originally, was money laundering through a taxi company and buying medallions in New York City and stuff like that.
Buying medallions. What do you mean by medallions?
So you have to have a medallion in order to operate a taxi cab. It's like your licensing.
Oh, yeah.
And in cities like New York, where there's so many taxi cabs, you can pay, like, one of the cases in here was about medallions.
Yeah.
It's like $30 million
Okay.
for a medallion.
Really?
And the medallion tells you where you can go and where you can't go. So,
Wow.
what do you think's the most, just out of
Was Trump
curiosity,
involved
No, that was
what do
one
you
of the
think,
other-
what do you think is the most valuable medallion?
like what city?
With the city. What medallion do you want if you're in?
Whatever gets you from Manhattan to JFK.
Correct. It's the
Okay.
airport one.
Because that's pretty far. That's pretty far.
That's beyond valuable.
Not to LaGuardia, but all the way to JFK. That would.
Because you gotta go to the end of the island.
Yeah.
Mhm. You ever wonder why no underground trains in Los Angeles could actually stop at LAX?
Or because they didn't want to mess with the taxi cab companies.
They couldn't mess with them. They shut them down.
Wow.
So the closest they can get is a mile.
And now they have Uber.
Mm-hmm. Life's funny, ain't it?
Mhm.
What did I always tell you guys though? There's always somebody, always something, but that will keep you in business. Unless you're going to. Anyway, so
Well, if you do it legally, it'll keep you in business.
that's true. You can do it legally. I mean, hey, wouldn't you want to have Danny DeVito, taxi company? It'd be really cool. I do that, right? And Judge Hirsch, hey man, that's cool. I got this guy who drives cabs for me. He's like Buddha, man. I'm serious. Dude's intense. Anyway, so back to what we were saying though. But getting collecting is quite a trick. It really is. And there's lots of good, bad, and indifferent about it. I have known attorneys that make a lot of money, and all they do is collect judgments. That's all they do. Nothing. They just whatever, and they don't even do it by the hour. They just take a percentage of, whatever they get, and they'll do that. I mean, they'll do hourly for you too, but the ones that I've met that are really good would just rather take a percentage, and they'll go after the big, the big time money stuff, and they get really good at it. So, I'm thinking of two attorneys right now that I know both of them. That's all they did. They did really, really well.
What do you do though? Do you just send out a bunch of notices and keep saying, well, just kind of outing people?
Well, I mean, there's lots of stuff you can do. You can, you can hound people, or you can file legal documents. And you can go after them in court. You can do anything you want, to a great degree. They try to, you can't do anything illegal, but there's lots of stuff that's available to you to collect on these judgments. But you got to be able to hang in there, and you got to be tough. And they were both very, very tough, I have to say. But they were very good at it. So they would file stuff all the time. They were very good at threatening your house. They do that way. That was one of the things they did really well.
Can I actually get your house?
Well, they're lien on it.
They could put a lien on it. Putting a lien on anybody can put a lien on a house. You put it on tomorrow, put a lien on a house. Now, if you do it fraudulently, they'll find out. You might get in trouble down the road, but they'll file it before they actually figure that out. It's very bizarre. I've seen that happen many, many times. These Liz Pendens, or whatever you want to call
Yeah, we do Liz Pendens all
them,
the
not
time.
hard to get.
Every time there's property at issue, we throw Liz Pendens in.
Yeah.
Like we're just in normal litigation.
Yeah.
Just to make sure it doesn't go away.
And I actually
doesn't sell it.
Yeah, I actually had one case where this guy, he didn't have a valid claim, right? So we went in, we removed those, he filed another one. We went in and got a valid claim. We moved another one. They let him do it 5 times.
Is he really?
5 times. Before then it was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Come on. And finally they stopped him. But he actually we had to remove the same. Can you believe that?
Wow, no, I can't believe that at all.
Welcome to Los Angeles.
Wow.
It's crazy down there sometimes. And we're just like, come on.
I would sue you for so hard for that. I'd go for fraud.
I thought that was a great idea. Anyway, so it's a pretty good trick though to actually collect judgments. And to me, again, it's I get it, but you know, the law is really the laws. Let me put it this way: mercy comes before judgment. Always think of it that way. Judgment doesn't come and then mercy. It's mercy before judgment. So just think about it sometimes, you know. It's like you sentence someone to death and then you say, let God have mercy on your soul. Gee, thanks. Very helpful. Mercy comes before judgment. So think about what you're doing sometimes. It's all. You do.
What about me?
Well, you're taking people's mobile homes now.
Shame
What
on
do
you.
you call?
Should have paid their debts.
May God have mercy on your soul.
I work for a bank.
That's true.
Should have paid your debts.
Devil's workshop, that's for sure. Anyways, with that said.
Well, there's a funny quote about him. It's from Happy Gilmore. And may God have mercy on your soul.
Happy Gilmore in like forever.
Everyone is now dumber for having listened.
No, it's
blah, blah, blah,
Billy
blah.
Madison. No,
Is it Billy Madison?
yeah, it's when he goes
It's
back
Billy
to
Madison. Yeah.
Oh,
Everyone is now
Billy Madison.
dumber for having. And it ends with, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Yeah.
That was a strange movie.
Yeah, it was.
That was a very strange movie.
Although it was one of my favorite
I actually worked on that.
Adam Sandler
I really
movies.
laughed. But I
You worked on it?
well, only in the sense that I licensed one of the songs to it. Yeah, I actually knew that Styx's Mr. Roboto was going to be in it before anyone else on this planet. So when you hear that song there, I actually was the guy that sang it. I said, okay, so this much money. Then I had to go watch it. Sorry. Anyway, so okay, we got collecting money judgments. There's 3 basic steps to it, yeah. So again, kind of interesting. Again, if you're overlooking at one of the things you do, I do think is valuable to be an attorney, though, even if you don't do it, is try to know the orders of things. So, you know, it really does help when you know like which debts come first. It really does know, you know, what's secured, what's not secured. It's really good to know, you know, fill in all these blanks because, first of all, it's good to know. Quite frankly, it's very, very good financial information. But you know, think about it. I mean, isn't this kind of laced into everything? It really is, because if nothing else, we learned what the orders in bankruptcy are, learned what the, I just always found that really, really, really valuable that I knew all these things, because it helped me fashion the right remedy. Do you see what I'm saying? It made selection of remedies much more realistic. If that makes sense, it should make sense even now, right? I mean, if you really know what's available and you really know what they're going to throw at you, right? Then it really does help a lot. And I got to tell you again, one of the things that I find very attractive about remedies is that I'm always shocked how few most lawyers know. You know, they always know a couple straightforward ones, which everybody under the sun knows. But if you want to do any kind of, I can't even really call it. I can't even really call it sophisticated remedies. They're not. I think you should just know these things as an attorney. But if you want to really fashion a good, well thought out monetary remedy for virtually anybody in virtually any situation, to know about these orders, to know about how these things work, it makes it so much easier for you to do that. It just does. So that on top of also, I recommend you learn all the remedies you can. I mean, I'm to this day really happy that I learned common counts. I mean, you'd be surprised. Every so often, I would throw in a couple of common counts. And you can. There's nothing wrong with it. They're common law. They're still on the books. They still can get, replevins in the UCC. I mean, it's not like these things have ever gone away. And I'll tell you one thing that some of these did, if nothing else, is I truly believe that it scared some other attorneys. oh my God, he's got refunded in here. Oh my God, he's got money's hadn't received. And so what's the very first thing they have to do? Go look it up.
But they're in the jury instructions with notes. Like California jury instructions.
For sure.
So like, take them,
That's right.
You still have to research.
But it sounds so scary too.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, then I'm going to reclevy your client. That even sounds worse than estoppel. I'm sure he doesn't want to be estopped. Okay. Yes, you will be very interesting. Did I ever tell you about the man that I once sat across from at a deposition table? And to this day, I'm convinced he was half amphibian. And I'm sure he was half frog. I would just stare at him and he just would be going like this. Through the whole thing. And I wanted to hit him with a fly swatter. Just, and he's sitting there like, he wasn't an old guy. He wasn't an old guy.
You might have like a
Who
neurological
says?
problem. Sometimes people with like neurological problems do weird things with their mouths, Like they'll like, do like a, have you seen that before? I don't know.
I mean, this is what it was like with this guy. You sit there and he was very polite. I mean, I don't fault him for that at all, but it'd be like, no questions.
The tech just to get the other to turn off their game.
No, I bet he had he had an issue.
He drove me crazy.
Yeah, mouth issue.
He definitely drove me crazy. Okay. So with that said, what do you think about Credit Bureau versus Monitor? Who wants to
Hilarious.
Well, it's not good. It's Nebraska. How bad could it be?
So this is basically two banks versus a guy.
That's his problem.
It doesn't actually say what
Pay
dog
his
it is.
debts.
Yeah, he didn't pay his debts. So
They took his car.
yes. So the district court originally awarded this Ford pickup truck to the state bank. Now the real issue here is that when the credit, I'm going to call it credit union because it's credit bureau and then banks. I'm going to call it credit union or bank.
Okay. The credit bureau attempted to get a judgment. Hold on, sorry, I just need to make sure I get the two sides correct. Sure, take your time. There's really virtually nothing I can still do to you with this one. Do you know that?
Not too much time though, because there's still a hell of a lot that I can do to you.
There's not. There's not.
He's gonna take your
I'm gonna take your house. I'm gonna take your trailer.
Okay, so
But I would hire you. It's gonna be my son. I'm gonna remember that. Here's a guy who'll do that for me. Matter of fact, if I got a client for you, I want him.
So the credit bureau sent a cop out to repossess a car. The cop told the Mullinger told the cop that the bank has a lien against it. The cop made some kind of a grandiose statement. I execute on the pickup for the county of Custer, and didn't take possession of it. Then 3 days later, on July 10th, the bank and Monitor actually make an agreement to what Monitor said the bank had an agreement. They didn't do it until the 10th, 3 days later. Then the sheriff goes ahead and on July 13th, so 3 days after that, goes ahead and seizes the vehicle for the union, and then on August 14th they sell it. They agreed that they're just going to fight over the $2,050 that the truck was sold for. The question is that who basically possessed this first, the cop going over and like legally possessing the car, even though he didn't actually take it and impound it. Just going over there and bringing it in is enough. And that predated the transaction that Mollinger claimed that he had, because that didn't actually get set up until the 10th. So the basic rule is that a manual interference with chattels is not essential. It is sufficient if the property is present and subject for the time to the control of the officer holding the writ, and that he expressed terms, and that in express terms he asserts his dominion over it by virtue of such writ. So you have to have the order and you have to express your dominion over it. You don't necessarily need to like have a fist fight over the car, you know?
Okay, so one entity gets a lien, another entity gets a lien later,
Right.
but one takes control. The second one takes control though.
Okay.
Okay, whose lien takes precedent? The first one that didn't take physical control, or the second one, but they took physical control?
Second one.
The first one.
I think, you know, it's the one, it's gonna be the one who has the lien first.
First in time, first in line.
The rule is on the bottom of page 65.
Yeah, you don't have to take physical
You
possession.
do not have to take physical.
Right, so it's whoever has the lien.
So who's first in line? Okay. Now, it would be different if they had, one was a secured and one was not, but they're both the same in this case. They're not. That's why that's why it's first. There are some tricks to that, so watch out. But in this case, everything being equal, first in time is first in line. That's okay, even for this ratty truck that they probably can't even sell at this point, to be honest with you.
But at least they still get their Peter pegs.
Woo, pigs.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Very good. All right, so there you go. So physical is not necessary. Very interesting. A lot of people
Because it's
still think
whoever
it
files
is.
the lien first. Right?
It's the first lien holder. But do be careful, because remember, secured liens will go before unsecured liens. So again, see how it's good to know all this stuff? There's lots of little tricks to it. So, anyways, but this is a judgment debtor, so they're going to be exactly the same. Okay. Anything else anyone want to talk about in that case? No? Okay, good. Let's go on. About Texas, ask her to read the notes. Okay, see if they're a little different in these places. This is a pretty good case. Dixie National Bank versus Chase.
So in this case, Mr. Chase was able to get a writ of garnishment against Mr. Gore. The writ of garnishment was for $48,473.50. And he must have known or did a debtor's exam and found out that he had accounts with Dixie National Bank. So they served the garnishment on the bank, stating to garnish any account that Jim Gore may have or that was of Jim Gore's property. The bank answered on July 20th and said that basically they only had, that he was either, so he only had $32.86 in the one account that they said that he had.
The one they found.
The one that they had found. So they actually ended up going through, although they said that he actually had a subsequent account at the bank. That must have been a business account because it was entitled Diamond M, but he was the sole signature and the owner of the account. So they ended up doing a second writ on the account. And again, the bank failed to find that one account. They ultimately did find it, but at the time where they had found it and when they amended their answer, he had a balance of $275 in the account at the time of the July garnishment and a balance of $65.63 at the time of the February garnishment. However, in between those two periods, about almost $14,000 had gone through the account. So the court basically, or the bank was arguing that we are not liable for the $13,000 because we answered. And once we answered, that cuts off our liability for anything that goes in and out of the account at that point.
Doesn't that sound wrong?
Yeah.
That just sounds wrong when you say that out loud.
But it's true, right? But the court ended up saying that although that is true, if due to your own negligence or something miss an account, then you haven't answered completely. Because they said that specifically we conclude that the term answer in the above statute means a complete answer, revealing all debts owed by the garnishee to the defendant debtor. And here they said because they had omitted the account during the first time, that technically they hadn't answered until they amended their answer with the found account, and therefore they were liable for the $13,000 that had gone through the account in the meantime, which is kind of BS because he didn't have the money in the account at either time of garnishment, so he wouldn't have gotten it from the bank anyways. But that's not worth that.
Yeah. But does the garnishee have any risk? And the answer
Yes.
is yes. Not that I want to go over this case quickly, but does everyone understand this case? If not, read note 1. It exactly explains to you what happened in this case. I mean, I could just read it out loud if you'd like. But, we all understand what a garnishment is, right? Right, so not third parties outside attached to the bank. Well, the bank is under at least a negligence standard that if there's monies in the bank, that the they're the garnishee. So garnisher is the person that actually gets the garnishment. They're entitled to know what's in the bank. Again, this is kind of a funny case because here he has it under Diamond M, but he's the sole signator. Again, this is 1986. We're still kind of at that computery phase where we're not quite all automated yet. I would be a little bit more today I'd be a little more like,
I mean, it's put their social security number and everything, and their profile comes up.
yeah, I mean, how would you miss it today? I'd be open for business. But back in 86, I would be curious to see what that file system looked like. I don't know what it looked like, honestly. I assume it's a bank, so it must have been some online stuff like that. But kind of an interesting question, But that's how it works. Huh? So there you go. And of course, the persons who get garnished, so to speak, are all these banks and employers. Right? That's basically the two things that you can get a garnishment against. So it's not like they're not familiar with these things either. I think they're very familiar with them. So I don't know what else to tell you about that case, actually. Yes, they all good? Okay, and again, when you're attorneys, you really have to know when you can and cannot garnish. I mean, it's very, very important. Because that's a way you can get money for your clients. Now, there are laws that only, people think, you can't garnish someone's entire paycheck. You can only get a certain percentage by law. I think it's 15, but I could be wrong. They may have changed it since I think the last one I did was many years ago. It was 15% was the total that you could take with any garnishments. So if you were first in line and you could get the 15, great. But if someone else had already gotten there, there's really nothing you can do. So again, notice how there's always a line. I mean, it's very important stuff. So you might be sitting there telling your client, garnish this, garnish that. Well, remember to say, but let me look into it first, because once the percentage runs out, you can't get any more garnishment, right? It's just against public policy. You can't take away one person's right to, well, maybe you could, but you can't take away a person's right to exist because you owe debt to somebody. So again, I've heard of attorneys doing that. They garnish, and then they found out the garnishment percentage is already gone. So be careful of that, because you're going to very much disappoint the client. Because there may be, after that, what do you do, right?
Well, the problem with garnishments too is you have to continuously do them.
Yeah.
Because they don't stay in effect. Like, you have to keep garnishing the account month after month after month after month in hopes that you'll hit it at a time to make money out.
Pretty much, yeah. That's pretty much it. And then, they're gonna fire back about living expense. I mean, it's a lot more. That's all I'm saying. I mean, a lot of people, your clients will come in and say, well, if he works here, let's just garnish his wages. What's the answer? Sure, well, let's look into it. Because again, there's lots, you may be able to do it and you may not. And so again, good to have, your particular remedies, good to have them in a row. Yeah.
Unless it's marriage debt, then you're screwed.
Yes, so there's
Speaking of marriage.
marriage. Okay, so everyone got that, right? Everyone knows what it is. It's a little trickier than you think, though. I found that
$11,000 on a trip to California. That's what I want to know.
Oh, that was
One day.
genius, wasn't it?
$11,000 on a trip to California.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, you fly first class.
In 1984.
I don't know.
Are you staying in Malibu for a month in like a beach house or something? Because
Even then, I mean, it'd be, I'd believe it more if you flew first class from New York and then stayed in a hotel in San Francisco.
Or something?
I believe that more. You could wrap that up.
I mean, you could, but who does? Especially somebody who's on like Social Security, like Social Security and disability. I just spent $11,000 on a trip to Cali. I would take his trailer.
You'd really be surprised how many people do this. You'd be shocked. There's people in this world who good, bad, and indifferent. I'm not going to name names, but not me, by the way.
Why are you talking about me like that in front of this kid?
He's talking about me since I'm the one taking all his trailers.
But I actually know people. I really can't understand this. They actually live their lives knowing they're going to file bankruptcy every time they can. That's how they live their lives. So they just got to figure out 7 years, whatever it is.
Fraud, though, and
It is. It
is, but I mean,
totally fraud. I can't believe anybody loans him any money.
I get that too. I mean, credit card companies are dumb like that.
Oh, they're
But
insane. They're just insane. They're just crazy. They, for some strange reason, think whatever percentage they get better than I just can't understand it at all. So, but yes, I know these people who, again, I'm sure they're better at it than me. Maybe they know a way to do that fraud line a little better. But I know people that do that. And I think it's perfectly legitimate. Hey, it's available, I can do it, that. And now you buy a pool table. Don't buy that one at the end. That's my advice to you. So that they can actually take back luxury items. A lot of people don't know that. If something's considered non-essential and you buy it too close to the actual date of your bankruptcy filing, they can just it's not even part of it. And your debt will not go away. So I can tell a few people that over the years. Of course, maybe they didn't. Okay, anyway, so who is going to give you the facts of in-remarriage of lust? Here's some facts. It's funny.
We have this guy, he got divorced from his wife, and during the divorce proceedings, they agreed that he would pay her alimony, which he would call maintenance for some reason. He's maintaining her. In exchange, in exchange, she would pay him to quit claim deed the rights to the house. And so she was paying him $20,000, and from that $20,000, he got like 16 because he owed her like 4. So then they were kind of dividing everything up. He was to pay her around like $200-300 of alimony. And yeah, he stopped one day. He just stopped paying alimony. Now she's filing for this whole contempt. He's not paying his court-ordered alimony. And he's trying to argue that, I'm broke, I don't have any money, how am I going to pay you? And I physically can't pay you, but then he's taking trips to California. That's like $11,000 trip to California, and he spends like a couple $100 on just non-essentials and fun toys, I guess, whatever anything listed was, but like on hobbies and things.
Okay.
Now he's married, so some of the, his bills and everything he's mentioned in his declaration that he can't afford anything, or like also bills that his wife also helps pay, so his new wife. So he's not being so forthcoming on the fact that he can't pay. The court finds this to be true, like, hey, you're not really, you're not really struggling here. And he tries to bring up this defense that, well, it's not Social Security, no Medicare and all that. It's exempt from all this, collection stuff.
Okay.
And the court
Well,
said,
I mean,
it's
technically,
not.
is it?
No, it's not. He said, the court said, well, it might be protected from other judgments, or not for contempt. So, where you either pay up or you go to jail 6 months. And what they did change was this contempt orders were written weird, so that even if you paid, you wouldn't have gotten out of jail. So they did affirm the part that it's contempt that he's not paying, but they changed it so that he has the option to get out of jail if he pays while he's in pressure. If he doesn't pay up to 30 days, he'll go to jail, then he can get out of jail if he pays.
Yeah.
Goodbye. So I don't know, 184?
Well, let's just say, so, how do I explain it? Oh, I know. Okay, so when you're trying to collect, I mean, and we've already talked about, quite a few of them actually, but there are exemptions. Right? I mean, there are going to be some things that are going to be beyond your grasp, no matter how hard you try to get them. Some of the classics would be like Social Security, things of that nature, pensions, mostly stuff like that, because it's not really thought, you're kind of living off that as well. You're going to retire off that. So again, society has to sort of balance between leaving you destitute in order to pay someone else, even though they do have a legitimate claim on your money. So the legislatures do have to actually set the limits for what you can and can't attach, also depending upon what kind of a order you have, right? We've kind of seen already that they're very different. In this case, Senate talks about that a lot, which is sort of interesting. You can read on, if you just sort of read page 886, for instance, that's what they're really talking about, is they're figuring out, well, if you get this, then you can get this. If you get this, then you can get this. If you get this, then you can get this. So you see how it really does matter. And so, I'm sounding a little bit like a broken record today, but after 20 years, you kind of scratch your head. And you don't understand why it is that you're always suggesting remedies to people. You would think they would know. It's the one thing you would think they would know. But in fact, they don't. That's partly why I like this class, is because I'm just always shocked at how many lawyers do not understand the full extent of their remedial weaponry that's at their hands, particularly in equity. It's just shocking to me. Everyone just thinks it's game over at law. It's like, that's crazy. You always, well, it depends what law you do, but lots of times the judge in equity will just think that something ain't fair, and if you don't take it there and you don't raise your equitable, defenses and things like that, and whatever else have to do, you're not going to get it. So anyway. But with that said, so this is kind of an interesting case where they go through these different schemes, and they find out that it's got some weird facts. This guy's overspending, obviously. Wasn't he just like his new wife or something? Or he's spending on his new wife and stuff. Crazy trips. Were they even married?
She needed her off-road vehicle.
Yeah, I actually had a problem with a case not too long ago where they had bought a couple of those, all-terrain vehicles, and you're like,
The quads?
yeah, and you're like, you did what?
Well, we wanted to take the kid.
How many did you buy? 4?
He made at least 4.
Everyone needed one. And you know what the classic is, by the way? You're gonna die when you hear what the other classic is. And people, I don't know why they do this. And I'm not making one thing better than the other. But I'm not talking about rich people. You know what the other one they always buy is for some weird reason? And I sit there and look and go,
Video game system?
That's not bad, but you know the one that gets me? Jet skis. What? Well, you know, we go down to Lake fill in the blank, right?
I'd buy something that couldn't be repossessed. Like a vacation to California. An $11,000 vacation to California.
Yeah, it's not a bad
It's
idea.
the memories.
And what are they going to repossess?
You're gonna repossess.
We'll take the memories back.
Sure, throw me in jail and tell me to pay $4,000 as I'm in jail on disability. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. And that kind of reminds me of last week, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not coercive because
It's like what?
it is a punishment.
It's
'Cause
punishment.
you're going to be in jail until you accrue enough Social Security to pay off $4,000. And by that point, you probably owe like $8,000.
Well, you can't be sentenced to work because I guess there's something against slavery.
Well, yeah, it's involuntary servitude.
Exactly, you can't be
Wait,
forced,
what
you can't be
state is this again? Not Texas.
Florida, I think.
can't be sentenced to McDonald's.
I'm just kidding. You know, Lincoln.
Illinois.
You know, I actually have really sat down with clients and have looked them right in the eye, and I have said, you know, Lincoln freed the slaves. You know that, right? He's not going to work off his debt to you anytime soon. You'll do it someday. Now that I mentioned it, you'll sit there and you go, what did Drucker say about Lincoln again? No, he's not going to come and do that for you. You can't make him do that. Oh my God. Okay, so again, exemptions, personal incomes, right? Different than, you know, other types of income. Personal property is different. Again, we're looking at things that could be attached. This is always pretty big. You know, the way that it basically works is attached items always go first because you can sell them. And it's really that basic. But think about that. That actually can really make a difference in your strategy. You know, so not again. Oh yeah, that is again. I'm telling you this almost every week. But I mean, I would really, myself and some other attorneys that we were of like mind, we would almost have a different strategy. We would just sort of stop once we were done with the substantive class, substantive case and the facts. That's one thing. But we would come up with, we would strategize as totally separate about remedies. It was just strategizing about what remedy can I get? What can I get here? What can I get there? And we try to get this way that some way, somehow, we catch it. It's not a bad idea. You might sit down sometime and just say to yourself, what is my remedies strategy? You know, how am I going to get this? I mean, sometimes it's pretty straightforward, but sometimes it's not. You know, and the more creative you get, the better off you are. It might, you know, I mean, it's just, again, it's different for everyone, but, you know, how am I ever going to get this from this guy? And I'd say, well, why don't you just take his website? It makes so much money a month. Hey, that's really good. Come here, I'm going to stab you. Why am I telling you this? So, anyway. It makes money. You know that, right? So you take the site. You have them sign it over. Sorry, I think of a guy in particular. Sorry. I digress. What can I do? Okay, anyway, so again, you want to have a strategy. You want to, that's why also it's really important, you know, that you understand the assets that are, you know, available. I mean, you know, I still remember working in a law office early on in my career, and this one attorney, she was just mad crazy about knowing everything possible that this person owed, and I never got it till a year later, and it's like, you know, when you get the first guys that can't pay you, you know, it sounds a little cynical, but it's true. Really, you should know what their assets are. You really should know whether they have any real ability to pay back, you know, particularly if it's a sizable one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You really should know. I mean, I can't begin to tell you how really important that is. You can run into an enormous amount of trouble if you don't know that, right? Because again, in the very bottom analysis, and I'm sure all three of you know this already, but you'll get a more profound, deep understanding. Your clients only want to know two things. Well, number one, will I win? Sure. See, I've got this crystal ball right here, and it says you're gonna win. So what do we say?
Yes.
Maybe.
Did depend.
There you go.
Depends, your lawyer answer.
Or I like this one. I used to do this. They got the big. So if anyone ever said, well, he told me that, it's like, I don't recall saying anything, Ron. Pretty good, huh? Well, that figured it out.
Do you have that on video, sir? No? Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I never saw it.
Yes. Well, what were you? I have itchy fingers. Anyway, second question, what do I get? Everything else, My advice is don't tell them too much case law. They either get bored or they get intimidated. So don't do that. It actually doesn't help you a lot. But always throw in one, because then they know you know it. That's my advice to you. I have a lot of case law, but there's just one. This looks good. You always have a little thing too, a little hanky for your glasses. Oh, looks pretty good. Advice to you. Do that or a monocle. That's cool too, yeah. No, it's looking at your test now. Excellent. All right, so we good?
I'm not sure if that's my style.
A monocle?
Yeah, I'm more, let's get a beer and talk about how we're gonna crush these people. You know?
Okay.
Seven chest full beers.
Yeah, let them vent, you know?
Yeah, then you're gonna end up sending letters like from Michael Avenatti and be like,
I mean,
You're
I'm
gonna-
not naughty.
you're gonna get drunk and be like,
No, I'm not gonna work drunk.
give me $12 million and I won't go public. And then you get the spark.
Oh, God. Oh, he's in big trouble.
Yeah, there's a couple of people in this world that just, why would you go after Nike? They're really big. Why would you go after?
He got too
Because he
big.
has
for
an
us.
ego.
A year ago, he was
That's insane.
discussing running for president, and he had nothing to run on other than,
He fought Trump.
other than like, he tried to screw with Trump and failed at that too.
Yeah, I didn't do too well with that.
No.
Yeah.
He got his case dismissed.
Trying to find a monocle on the internet.
That's monopoly, man.
Indubitably.
Indubitably.
Now, now,
Do hypnotic taxing.
What?
Do hypnotic taxing.
Shit. Okay.
okay, who wants? Hey, 2016. This is pretty good.
Alright, I'll bust it out. I'll bust it real quick. Okay,
Well,
so
hey, but think about this. You're getting an order to preserve assets through free judgment.
right, so this guy named Friedman owes money, and he wants to start to create trust funds to start to hide it all. And these guys want to have a prejudgment attachment. Okay, so what you need for a prejudgment attachment is three things. You need you have to show that there is a cause of action and that it is probable that the plaintiff will succeed on the merits. Two, that one of the grounds for attachment provided in 6201 exists. And three, that the amount demanded from the defendant exceeds all counterclaims known to plaintiff. There's also a little section at the end of this that goes on. So the first one is that the probable showing is just proof stronger than that required to establish a prima facie case. So basically, if you have any evidence here, you're going to win this, and this guy does. Additionally, 6201. In this case, there is fraud, and that is good enough. That's one of the ways you can do this. Finally, they went ahead and showed that the amount demanded exceeded all the counterclaims. So in the end, if everything kind of nobody won or lost, the party requesting it would have been the party getting the money, right? And then finally, at the end, where does it go? It goes on to say that what can be attached, and the answer is anything you have an asset in, essentially, right? I think that's what it said.
Pretty close. Yeah.
I think that's my reading of it in as quick as possible.
Okay. As quick as possible. That's fine. Okay. I mean, does everyone
He asked me to.
essentially agree with that? I mean, I find it interesting though that notice one of the things that I found really curious about this case was if you read particularly on page 900, notice that Citibank had quite an elaborate idea. I mean, they just wanted to hold the medallions hostage. It's not what they wanted. So you see how I'm saying, you see how they plan out things? It's like, we'll get this, and we'll get this, and we'll get this. But what they really wanted was the real estate holdings. But to get to the real estate holdings, they were going through the medallions, kind of holding them for hostage or something. Fascinating, really. Citibank sought in the bankruptcy proceeding to attach all of Friedman's assets, so that makes sense. Its principal target was not the taxi medallions, but Friedman's real estate. Each property was owned by a separate legal entity. So every time he bought some property, he put it in a separate, probably LLC or something, right? Instead of going looking to attach all these different entities. The courts variously refers to as the residences, the investment entities, and meaning real estate held for investment, and the real estate entities, including both the residences and the investment entities. Now, why do you suppose they break those two into two parts? Why are they bothering to even mention that there's residences and investments? Now, if you're...
Because residents are probably more strongly protected than an investment property.
And the limits are much higher depending on where you are, too. A lot of times what happens is these gajillionaires, so to speak, are not rich, but one of the more famous cases that ever came down the pike was, I think I might tell you a little bit about this case before, but one of the cases that was really curiosity, particularly at the bankruptcy level, was WorldCom when they declared bankruptcy. Second biggest bankruptcy ever in United States history. The biggest is still, Enron. Enron's still up there. Number two was WorldCom. It's a company called WorldCom, owned by a guy named Bernie Ebbers. He's the CEO. He's in prison still. I mean, what he did is, I'll tell you the story someday, but if we were in business entities, I'd tell you the whole story. What this guy did is, let's just say he brought new meanings to the balance sheet. I'll put it that way. He actually put in numbers that were impossible, and everybody knew it except for. Anyways, with that said, his CEO was a guy named Scott Sullivan. Well, it just so happened that right before he declared bankruptcy, he bought a $15 million, he virtually took everything and put it into his wife's name, and they bought this $15 million mansion in Florida. Even though he didn't live in Florida, he actually lived, I believe, in Massachusetts, and the business was in Massachusetts. Why did he do that? Because it just so happens that we now know that in Florida, the homestead exemption is basically what?
Very high.
It's whatever your home is. So he takes all of his assets and he puts it into a $15 million home in Florida.
It's awesome.
Guess what? Does he still have that home?
Yeah.
He does. He still has that.
Well, probably not. He probably sold it, got his $15 million in assets back.
And now he lives in a
And
$5
lives in a
million
house.
That's fine. But while he was in prison, his wife lived there, and they kept the place, and he got away with it, so to speak. But that's why he did it.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that was
Yeah, no, that's
not bad.
I got a good lawyer right there. That's solid.
That was not a bad idea.
That's how you take care of your
I forget
people.
what state it is, but there's a state that all like the car guys are buying their multi-million-dollar cars in because the registrations are way lower or something like that.
Huh, that's an interesting.
Yeah, someone's registering, like a lot of these supercar guys are registering their cars in a certain state because the registration fees aren't as crazy. Yeah.
I mean, it could be. These guys really do some crazy stuff when they get to that level, But that was always my favorite story, is he buys this $15 million mansion. So, I mean, personally, we all know that I'm just running to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good. Although Santorini has now been recommended to me. Because even though Greece technically has extradition, they never do it, I've been told, so. Santorini, oh. I should go check that out, just to make sure. I can do that, yes, I did. Guess I'll have to learn what Red Sea meant. I assume you guys just wanna go through. You don't wanna take a break, do you? Okay, let's just go through.
Did we our last break?
I mean,
You want your last break?
No, I'm not that nostalgic. Really not.
I figured you'd have to remember me kindly.
I have to go home and sit with the cat for at least an hour before I go home. So I just want to go home.
What are you sitting for your house for?
I'm just cat sitting, and I'm just supposed to be going over there to feed them, but I got woken up at 6 a.m. this morning, bitching that I had only spent 20 minutes with the cat yesterday.
How did they know?
Because their alarm lets them know when I clock in and clock out, basically.
Are you being paid for this?
Not yet, and they don't usually pay me very well, and because this isn't normally what I have to
You
do.
can attach the cat.
I hate the cat.
Just take the cat.
All the cat does is hiss at me from under the bed, and that's what I told him. I was like, the cat doesn't even come out. I'm sitting in your house for an hour in an empty house while your cat hides under the bed. And they're like, well, if you were there longer, it would come out. I'm like, whatever. So they called me at 6 a.m. this morning to make me go over there. So yeah.
Netflix.
But it's a cat. I
I
mean,
gotta wake up at 6 a.m. again tomorrow to go over there to spend my hour with the damn cat before work.
but cats.
I get it, it's a cat. Trust me, I got the same argument.
I mean, if it was like a Labrador sitting there all alone all day, it could eat the house if you didn't took it out on a walk or something, you know. But it's a cat. What's it gonna do?
Yeah. For attention.
I mean, I love cats. I'm not going to dog, but I love cats. What's it gonna do? Just be sad? Who cares?
It's mean, bro.
I don't know with cats.
It has a litter box, I go in and I give it food, I check the house, but they want an hour.
An hour.
I gotta go do that after this.
An hour. Nobody gets an hour of my time.
That one's gonna pay me an hour of my time. Alright, so W.E. Erickson.
Alright.
So,
I'm paying you if I'm giving you an hour. If I'm giving you an hour of my time. There's some reason where I'm paying you.
So Erickson was contracted by Congress to build a water park for no more than $500,000. Their contract said that they could get to a certain point and ask for payment for work that had been done. So it got to a point where they had were 60% complete. They applied for payment of $246,000, which it didn't get. And they said that, instead of paying you, we're going to sign over the deed to you for the land as collateral. And like, fine, whatever. So they finished the project. They open up for business. The water park opens up for business on July 4th, like it was supposed to. And then on July 9th of the same year, so 5 days later, they reincorporate into Thunder Mountain Rapids Corporation. So they're and basically liquidate Congress kennel work. And at this point, they still had not paid Erickson. So Erickson, went after them. He said that we want our money for what we've done. So they sent a letter that acknowledged that they were indebted to Erickson for $550,000 and that he would be paid in 30 days. Then they had actually paid them $50,000 with that letter. They paid them an additional $85,000, and then ultimately they paid them a total of $150,000.
Now, who made those payments?
Thunder Mountain Rapid Corp.
Do you think that was important to this case, what you just read?
Yeah, because I can't think of the word. They're acknowledging the debt that they owe. I can't think of the word.
So I think they got what they deserved, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. So they didn't pay on the rest. And then the army comes in and is like, actually, we own the land that they deeded over to you. They have no rights to it. So then it comes that Thunder Mountain actually ends up paying rent to the Army because they're encroaching on their land. And so their argument is basically, we can't pay you because we have basically no liquidation. Everything that comes in goes out. We haven't taken a salary. We've been repaid monies that we've paid into the corporation, but we're basically running even right now. And so Erickson asked for the court to appoint a receiver, stating that there was a fear that they would be diverting income from Thunder Mountain so that they wouldn't be paying off their debts. And so they asked for a receiver for their monies, so that way they would know that when judgment comes due, they will be paid. The trial court gave them the receivership after they did a trial on it. And the Court of Appeal basically stated that the court was wrong. They said that the general rule is that the applicant, they said first that when you do a receiver, you have to exercise extreme caution because you're basically taking away somebody's rights and property before a judgment's even been handed down on anything. But they said it basically has to be an act of last resort. And they said that the general rule is that the appellant must show first that he has a clear right to the property itself or has some lien upon it, or that the property constitutes a special fund which he has a right to resort for the satisfaction of his claim. And second, that the possession of the property by the defendant was obtained by fraud, or that the property itself or the income arising from it is in danger of loss from neglect, waste, misconduct, or insolvency. And they basically said that when you plead for receivership, that you have to plead with particularity. You can't just say you have a fear that the funds are going to be diverted. You have to show that it's actively being diverted or something like that. Otherwise, the court should not issue a prejudgment attachment or a receivership or something like that.
Okay, so we're sort of learning what the requirements are to get these not extraordinary remedies, but not so easy to get, right? We're not going to be so quick to do these things.
So is that a prejudgment attachment when you ask for a receivership, or is that a different remedy? Because you have the case under attachment.
There's a problem here, and it's interesting because they're in bankruptcy. So
they're in bankruptcy.
Oh yeah, if you read sort of between the lines, I think they're done. I think this company's actually in bankruptcy by now. So it's kind of, or at least they're heading there, almost for sure, because they're going to get a trustee anyway soon. But it's kind of an interesting case though, because when you sort of look at the case, personally, just from my personal opinion, which I guess matters, that's really, but there's nothing really that the parent company did wrong. I mean, the only thing they didn't do right was what?
Pay.
Well, but you see what they didn't pay. But do you have a right? I mean, do you have a right to run a business and maybe we weren't quite as funded as we thought we were?
Yeah.
And also, there's another problem too that I kind of read between the lines on this. And a lot of people make this mistake in business, by the way. It's very, very, very common, particularly with things like water slides and stuff like that. Does revenue go up or does revenue go down every year?
It goes down.
It goes down.
It goes down.
Because people get bored.
Yeah, everyone goes the first time, and then when it's not new anymore, what do? Go for the next new thing. So technically, it goes down, and it goes down, and it goes down. And I think the biggest problem that these guys had is I don't think they were smart. Well, I think they overestimated what they could really do. That's what I read in this. Because notice that the court is being somewhat deferential to them. For instance, they did change from one company to the other, right? Can you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I mean, there's lots of reasons to do that. See, notice on one side, Erickson's screaming, yelling, ranting, and raving, saying they're doing all this to this, so they don't have to pay us. I don't think that's true. I think they were doing all these things because they were trying to keep it going. Notice that I felt very, very confident. Notice that they send them a letter, which is not in your best interest, right? You send a letter and you say, within 30 days or less, we expect to pay you in full. You better have some idea to pay them. I mean, that's not a great idea to do that, quite frankly. But notice that the letter enclosed a partial payment. So they put $50,000, they make another payment of $85,000. Both payments coming from Thunder Mountain. Thunder Mountain's willing to pay them. It's not that they're not trying to say, well, you had a deal with that company, are they? No. So in a lot of ways, when you start to read this case, you think, this sounds more like guys who just got in over their heads, and as revenues went down, they realized, uh-oh, there's no real way to turn this around. Probably not, right? I mean, how are you going to turn around a water park? So that's why I think, strange but true, because a lot of people read this case and they go, it's like, yeah, they probably weren't the smartest, businessmen on the block, and I think they way overestimated. I mean, reading this, it seems like they overestimated.
That's common though. Usually people overestimate what they think they're gonna make.
Right. They usually overestimate what they make and they underestimate what it costs to do it, right? It's very typical. Well, I think this is your typical case of that. And even though Erickson is screaming bloody murder, I really don't think these guys are bad guys. And I think that it's kind of reflected because Erickson's not asking for anything unusual except to be paid, except that they are asking for things that are a little unusual, right? I mean, why would you want a receiver except in a case of what? What do you think? I mean, they're paying you, they're trying to pay you. If you think they're going to defraud you and you don't want them with their hands on the cookie jar anymore, you want the special fund, right? Which again, how do you get a special fund, by the way? Did you all catch that? You get it through an equitable lien. You also want to have a fund on it. Very interesting. Again, this one's kind of worth rereading, to be honest with you. It's really an interesting case, more than you might really think. But the thing about a receivership is I think you pretty much are alleging fraud, don't you think? Why else would you want a receiver? And I think there's something about, I think I read something about this case. I think they filed for bankruptcy like right after that anyways, got a trustee. So, but yeah, might even be nuts.
They got sued again. I looked them up. They got sued again.
They get sued again.
Yeah, because they kept some guy out that had elephant man's disease.
Oh, really?
They had elephantitis or something.
Why they keep him up?
And so they kept him out thinking that it was contagious.
Oh, in the park. Oh, that's not
But it was only a $10,000 reward.
Well, didn't they see Elephant Man?
Well, this was in 96.
Oh.
Elephant Man, did they didn't clear up that he was a kid, it's just did they?
What?
I'm trying to remember the movie Elephant Man, the black and white version.
Oh, and he
That
was
is weird.
Yeah.
What if somebody has some weird contagious thing? You just have to let them in.
like measles.
Yeah.
No.
Seems timely.
Like what if somebody had? Well, I mean, most of them can be fine. Like most of us are vaccinated, but like.
I don't want autism.
You're not vaccinated?
No.
Really?
I don't want autism.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
I was like, what the? I wasn't even what that was. Like, you're ridiculous, but okay. I was totally scared. I was totally letting
Drucker being like.
I was totally just like letting you have that one. I was like, oh my god.
I'm not gonna give it to my group.
Yeah, not over like.
I can send you to LAX so you can go get measles.
Okay.
Okay. Next case. City Riverside, because we're a bunch of horrible people in this area.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so everyone kind of get that case then.
Mm-hmm.
Just be a interesting case, but again, when it comes to receiverships, it's actually fairly. That's pretty radical. They're hard to get. I mean, you're really hard to let you fraud. I don't really think you can get a much shorter thing than that. I don't think so.
My notes say you need
You
a
were trying to
special
pay
fund,
someone else
and
first.
income arising from that special fund is
Isn't
in danger of
Yeah.
neglect, waste, misconduct, or solvency. All 100% of my notes.
But tell me, before we move on, from reading this case study, do you really think that's true?
What?
Do you think that they were trying to defraud them?
No, I think they
I don't think
just
so. I really
were
don't think so.
crappy business people and had no money.
That's what I think.
And were trying to delay paying them just for as long as they could.
Well, and you know, they're really.
Well, I just don't get how they were able to encroach on the Army's property without realizing it. Was your title not clear?
Surveying issues probably.
Yeah, probably a survey issue, or-
Because it's downtown Chicago, or not downtown Chicago, but it's in Chicago.
Right, but also remember that there's a problem with the US government because, you know, when you look through record rolls, indexes and what do you look under US Army? I mean, how much property they own. So you see how that can be sort of
Yeah.
almost like a wild bee. So that could be a problem, believe it or not. You know, that I could see as a problem because,
But you think you'd look up your neighbors, see where their property lines end.
well, yeah, I mean, and the thing to me is like, why did they think who sold it to them?
Yeah.
Thinking they owned it. But again, I think it was, I hate to say it, but I think again, it was an honest mistake. I mean, the court's I'm just trying to, am I wrong? But the court's like, you know, we understand you want your money, but you're trying to portraying these guys like, you know,
Scumbags.
and they just aren't. We're sitting there going, look, we know they did this, but they did this and they paid it and you accepted it. Nobody hid it from you.
Yeah.
They're trying the best, they're not good.
And you know, and let's face facts too. I mean, just from what although Chicago's not bad though, but I mean, a little risky. Water park.
Chicago Water Park, and people don't live in it.
According to the,
No,
Is that reviews?
I
What's a Yelp review right now?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, that sounds a little risky.
according to this article from I don't know if that's the wrong article. So according to this article from 1989 in the Chicago Tribune, there were 30 different water parks in the downtown Chicago.
How many?
30.
That's too much.
Wow.
30. Oh,
Sure.
wow.
You know,
And the one for Thunder Mountain Rapids
Oh man.
said that it boasted two 805-foot long slides with flumes averaging 40 feet in width. So these are all down in downtown Chicago.
What are flumes?
Like a log flume, like goes down.
how would you even 40
In width?
That's
Think about what you said, 40 feet in width.
Yeah, that, well, I'm sure they have like the logs in them or something like that.
really like you.
That's what the Chicago Tribune says.
It seems like a terrible investment if they were
Yeah,
getting
it
water
is.
parks in the same area.
Yeah. Whoever got out of that is the winner. Whoever
Yeah,
sold it to
shout
this
out.
guy, that's the winner of this whole
I
thing.
have to say, wow, that certainly changed my analysis. Because, water parks go out of business all the time. I mean, they're not stable. And like I said, they tend to slow down and slow down and slow down. So
Isn't there a not Soak City in the valley?
there's always some idiot.
Yeah, they just sold it.
They just saw
It
it.
still exists.
It's closed this summer because no, it's not. It was Knott's and then it became Wet and Wild,
Yeah.
and then Wet and Wild just sold it to somebody else, but they're closing it for the summer to renovate it,
Okay.
and it'll be open again.
When I was a kid, it was something. It wasn't even Knott's. It was shoot. I forget. I miss I was a little kid, but it was called something else.
They're known as Wet and Wild and Knots. So that's it.
I don't know, when I was a kid, they were really small and they were really, everyone got diseases from them, so nobody went. That's all I can tell you.
I remember as a kid, there was so much chlorine that it would just being in the water at the end, you would just be like, everyone's eyes were like bright, dark red,
That's how the
Bright,
That's how the
dark red.
school pool was at my high school.
Yeah, it just was kind of,
You want to get
crazy.
sick or do you want skin burns? I mean, you got
yeah.
To the end. Okay. Who wants the honor? City of Riverside versus Rivera.
I'm proud of our town.
I was gonna say, we get a very hallowed position in this book, don't we?
Right?
This is actually a famous case. You'll probably,
It's
if
not
you ever do
familiar.
any law like this, you're gonna hear about it. Do you guys understand how amazing this case was? Just anybody, do you understand that these two lawyers that took it on knew nothing?
Yeah, you said that last week.
If they had
or 2
known
weeks ago.
anything, they would have never taken this case, and they won. It's truly an amazing case.
You didn't say that in the case.
Anyway, so what happened?
Alright, so in this case, we have just a nice house party happening. Not really disturbing anybody. People minding their own business, throwing a party.
What was happening?
And like something like 30 cops or something, like, well, there's 30 defendants, but you just have all these cops that bust into the party with tear gas, and, it's okay. And, they start to, arrest people, with excessive force. Now you have, 30 defendants that are like, hey, we were just minding our own business. What happened? And, the court's found for the defendants, but now that we have these two attorneys here trying to get their attorneys' fees.
Mm.
And the attorney's fees are what they were about $250,000 for 2,000 hours at $125 per hour, and yeah, that's probably a lot for two attorneys that don't know anything. That's a year's worth of work.
Oh yeah.
So.
Well, it's several years of work.
Oh yeah.
I think did it take 6 or 7 years? 7 years, I think, that trial was.
Well, according to
6, 7.
Note 10, not Note 10, but footnote 10, it says we reject the United States suggestion that the prospect of working nearly 2,000 hours at a rate of $5.65 an hour to be paid more than 10 years after the work began is likely to attract a substantial number of
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pass on.
Leave it to the U.S. government. $5.65 an hour is good. You could pay it in 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, what's the federal minimum wage? It's not that high, right?
Well, not back then.
Very attractive. Yeah.
So they came down to this larger argument that the point of civil lawsuits wasn't pay the attorneys and generate.
Well,
Because what he just said.
that's actually kind of interesting, though. Let's stick with that for a second. What do you think about that? I mean, notice that this is a civil rights case. And so when you have a civil rights case, how many times did the person whose rights you're actually defending be able to pay you for something like this?
Probably not.
Right, almost never, right? Almost never. So what do they do?
Don't pay.
Nope.
They don't try to.
They just eat it. If they don't get paid, they just eat it.
You guys are not reading this case.
Well, they ask for attorney's fees.
No.
Yeah.
But you said, what do they do if they don't get paid? I mean, if they don't get paid, they just eat it. I mean,
But
nothing else you can do.
Can they apply to the court?
Yeah.
For attorney's fees?
Yeah.
Well, you
If
have
they
to apply
lose.
to the court.
No,
It's only
if they
court
lose, they
reported.
don't get anything.
Yeah, you have to win.
You have to
Well, you
win.
have to win.
Yeah.
But can you apply?
Well, you
Can.
have to apply to the court.
Well, you don't have to. You could have been paid by
Well,
your
you could have.
client, but they never pay. So can you?
Yeah.
Yeah. The restriction they put on whether how much you get paid is depends on the pre-trial settlement offers.
Okay.
There's you put in your offer, and if you win more than what the offer says, you get your attorney's fees. If you get less, you don't get any attorney's fees.
Well, that's for a 998 in a civil suit.
Yeah, that's the same rule they put here.
Why won't you just bring this into public interest? Like the public interest law, you don't need.
A 998. in this
Yeah.
one. I mean, it's just a civil rights action.
This is a civil rights action. Yeah.
So you can get it for civil rights or for an action in the public interest. Or they're not saying, really.
They are different, but the theory is the same. But they do work differently.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
I'm just saying that this is a very unusual case in this.
Not
court
sure what we
because-
Seems like they're both just actions for public interest, though, right?
Yeah.
But it's
that's
different.
right. Yeah, but they're both for different reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but it's interesting because again, this is not a contract. This is not a tort. This is a civil rights case, and so when you see civil rights cases, know that the rules are very different. There are very different rules for them, and one of the ones is to encourage attorneys to take cases like this. You can apply for your fees. So what becomes the big problem?
Have every attorney try to get every one.
Not really. I mean, a lot of attorneys won't do it anyway, but you know, what's your big problem though?
What's reasonable?
Yeah, I mean, what's reasonable? And so this is kind of the case that starts to lay it out for us, right? Now, there's two different types of attorney's fees, is that correct?
No.
There's two ways to
Contingent
calculate them.
and-
Oh, no, hold on.
You mean costs and fees?
Okay,
There's two
what
types.
did you, I'm just curious.
You mean that?
Believe it or not, this case is not famous because, this case is not famous because police officers in Riverside County have been known to do things that are, let's just say, racist oriented. That's not why this is in here. Why is this case in this book?
Because you're paying attorney's fees from the taxpayer.
Because you get the attorney's fees. I don't know.
Oh, guys, you gotta go, you actually have to know this. I mean, this is one you actually have to know. It's actually a famous
It's
case.
because of the math in it, and
Yes, there you
it's
go.
the most obscure math in the world.
But it's called the what?
Oh wait, no, that's a different case. This case just says you get reasonable attorneys,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Isn't it
Yeah,
the in-ray Cabletron systems one that gives you the math formula of the different?
Okay, but what's it called? Why is City of Riverside?
The American rule?
Oh, no,
Hold on.
Well,
that's not
is it because there's no there doesn't need to be any correlation? It just needs to be between the amount that you would win in the case and the attorney's fees. Like you could be like 100%.
Sure.
I mean,
Oh, no,
I'm making stuff up. Why don't you tell me?
It's because the attorneys for the county argued that they should be relegated, that reasonable attorney fees are based on the 30% contingency fee, and therefore they should only be relegated to 33% of what the actual value is of what they had gotten as an award. And the court said that here, because it's a civil rights wrong, that a successful civil rights plaintiff often secures important social benefits that are not reflected in a nominal or that are reflected in a nominal or relatively small damages award. So they're saying that Congress instituted the right to get attorney's fees because most of the time you don't get any kind of a fee award. You get just the benefit, the societal benefit of knowing what your civil rights are and having them be enforced. And therefore, this is the way for a civil rights attorney to get paid, as opposed to what the United States and plaintiff's attorney wanted them to believe, that they should just get 30% of whatever monetary judgment they got against them, which would have been $11,000 out of $245,000.
Okay. So did the court go with that?
No, they gave them.
The state's argument's ridiculous. I mean,
So
there's a
what did they
provision
give
for
them?
attorney's fees.
What did they give them?
They gave them.
They gave them what they asked for.
Yeah, 24
How
or
did
whatever.
they calculate?
I think it was.
They didn't say in
Yes,
this.
they
No, it
did.
says it in the
Oh,
Senate.
they definitely do. That's why
Oh.
the case is famous. It tells you how to
But they
calculate.
got 245,000 on a recovery of 33,000.
Okay, so
So
how did
that
they
blows
get to
your
that
mind.
number?
1,900 hours, that's 125?
Because they gave.
So that's what?
Reasonable attorney's fees.
And that's called what?
Reasonable attorney fees.
No.
Hourly?
No! Are you seriously? It's called the lodestar theory.
That's in the next case.
920, part 2. Footnote 3. That's why this case is famous. Because they said, yeah, that sounds really good.
Yeah, but the big argument on Lodestar is on page 940 in the case of In-Ray Cabletron,
Well, that's
where they go through the multi-factors of determining a reasonable fee. I mean, they split them all out.
The word vote.
I mean,
is
you
right
can't
there.
say that.
This is the case where they finally said lodestar works.
I've never understood Lodestar.
What comes out of a case called lodestar?
Yeah, I never understood.
They said, yeah, we can do that.
So,
Okay, but they don't even say. Do they even say Lodestar?
yeah.
Yes.
Where?
It's right there.
Of course it
I
does.
see you're calling. Oh, it's
That's why this case is famous.
But Lodestar
Okay, well, I
doesn't.
don't understand how a case can be famous for its footnote.
But Lodestar doesn't
If
just
it's
say.
important, put it in the case. Like in Cabletron, which we will go over next week in detail.
But Lodestar doesn't just say these factors. I believe,
when I
right?
give you it,
It doesn't just list those factors. It's kind of complicated, I believe.
Well, in Johnson, it says
Well-
in Johnson it identifies the 12 factors.
Okay.
yeah,
And then the Johnson one has been referred to as Lodestar. Is Lodestar like the second part, like the second name in the case or something like that?
yeah, it was so and so versus.
Johnson versus Lodestar or something like that?
I had to fight a motion on this once.
don't know if
And
it's
I have the
Johnson,
hardest
it's
time
probably
understanding it.
Davis.
I remember going through these factors in ethics.
Yeah.
We went through
Yeah,
this because
for sure. Yeah.
when we go over our attorney, our like retainer agreement and stuff like that, and contingency fees and whether they're reasonable or not, she said you have to go through these 12 factors.
You have to know.
So I remember going through I didn't realize they were called Lodestar though.
Yeah, it's called, whenever you do a basic hourly based on the amount of hours spent, that's reasonable in a civil case like this,
Yeah.
civil rights case. You see, remember that these are all different, so you had to haul this into civil rights, you see what I'm saying? And they said, yeah, that sounds pretty good. And so they had this already case on file called, I can't remember what it was against, it's called the Lodestar case, and they gave you the 12.
All I know now is that
12
it's
ways, 12.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I think
it-
it's all from ethics, but yeah.
it's
no-
part of the ABA rules and the California rules of ethics. I mean, those 12
So you have to
things
know.
are actually in the rules now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, now they're actually in the rules.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's
I
true.
didn't know them as Lodestar.
Yeah, I didn't know them as well. I just knew that there was the 12, because I was reading through it, I was like, oh, well, they need like the 12 factors.
Yeah.
I didn't see
It's
the
called
footnote.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've heard the Lodestar one.
I'm like, no, this was just.
But it's
the
harder.
next case.
Lodestar is actually like confusing AF.
Oh, Lodestar?
It sounds simple because like, oh, there's 12 factors and you just come up with multiplied by a reasonable rate.
No, it's not.
Coming up with that reasonable rate
Hard.
is bloody confusing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
bloody
You
confusing.
have to do a lot of comparisons.
Yeah.
So, it's not as easy as
I don't understand it and I fought a motion on it. And at the end of it, I close my book and I don't understand it. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where it's like, that's the best I can do. That's the best argument I can make.
It's not an easy thing to do.
Talking about, what's the next case? I didn't see the footnote. I just read the next case and I was like, I know what you're talking about, how to calculate it, but I'm pretty sure that's the next case. Yeah, that's the last case.
You guys always know this one. I thought we had one more.
Do we do the next one?
Let's be Jeff.
No, that's it, right?
Yeah, no, I thought it just went to 9:39 is the last case that we were supposed to read up to 9:39.
That's right. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, good job.
Well, we'll
But
go
let me just
through the
make
Lodestar.
clear, let's go through Lodestar next week.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
No, yeah.
Let's do it.
It's really important.
Yeah.
I think, whoa, I don't think these guys quite got
No, like
Well, no, because it's the next case. I mean, it really got
I-
detailed in the next case.
Honestly, when I saw a new chapter starting, there was one case, I kind of went through it quickly.
No, I read it. I just didn't. I'm really bad about reading footnotes unless it's a whatchamacallit, a PC. I am. I don't know why. I feel like if it's important, it should go in the case.
This could be a good. Be nice to the kitty.
What?
You be nice to the kitty.
I am gonna be nice to the cat.
Answer that way.
I like the cat. It's just, I don't think I should have to spend an hour with the cat.
No, I agree with
That's a
you.
little weird. For me.
At 8 o'clock, actually, by the time I get home, it'll be 9 o'clock at night.
I mean, see, personally, I don't see the advantage to the cat. I don't think the cat cares.
Yes, exactly.
Dog.
But
the dog care. If I'm watching a dog, I will spend time with the dog. I'll bring it for a walk. I'll do everything.
Yeah.
It's a cat.
Right. It's weird. I agree with you, buddy. I was laughing about like, dude, you got the wrong guy.
Yeah, like
We did not discuss this.
at first they were telling me 20 minutes, and 20 minutes I still think is excessive, but more doable than an hour.
I shouldn't have to find your animal. If I have to find your animal, it doesn't want to see
It doesn't want to see me.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right, thanks for listening.
All right, see you tomorrow.